ki jai, Shishi Pancha Tattva ki jai, Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Agyantimirandasya Ganandana Shulakaya Chaksharanmilitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhatare Swayam Rupa Kadam Hayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnuparaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Śrīmati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Utai Mahatpriyaya Mahapuro Vibhur Nirmaya Kshetaya Damushpurusha, Bhunkte Ganan Sada Susuda Sukmaka Lankrishishna Bhagavan Machamsi Me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So with the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, especially senior Vaishnavas, Prabhupada disciples, sannyasis assembled here, we'll continue reading from the 8th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, chapter 3, Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender, text 20 and 21. Ekāntino yasya kañcanārthaṁ. 21, okay. Okay, well, we'll just read 21 then. Tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam. Tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam. Avyaktam yadhyatmika yoga gamyam. Avyaktam adhyatmika yoga gamyam. Atindriyam sukshmat ivati duram. Atindriyam sukshmat ivati duram. Anantam adyam paripurnamide. Anantam adyam paripurnamide. Tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam. Avyaktam adhyatmika yoga gamyam. Atindriyam sukshmam ivati duram. Anantam adhyam paripurnamide. Please. Tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam. Avyaktam adhyatmika yoga gamyam. Tindriyam sukshmam anantam adhyam paripurnamide. Akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam. Ladies, please. Tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam. Brahma param pareśam. Avyaktam adhyatmika yoga gamyam. Atindriya sukshmati bhati duram. Anantam adhyam paripurnamide. Tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam. Synonyms: tam, unto him. Akṣaraṁ, eternally existing. Brahma, the supreme. Param, transcendental. Pareśam, the Lord of the Supreme Personalities. Avyaktam, invisible, or not able to be realized by the mind and senses. Adhyatmika, transcendental. Yoga, by Bhakti-yoga, devotional service. Gamyam, obtainable. Bhaktyamam abhijanati. Ati indriyam, beyond the perception of material senses. Sukshmam, minute. Iva, like. Atiduram, very far away. Anantam, unlimited. Adyam, the original cause of everything. Paripurnam, completely full. Ide, I offer my obeisances. So I'll read the Sanskrit of the previous text as well. And then we'll read translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. Ekāntino yasya na kañcanārthaṁ, panchanti evai Bhāgavata Purāṇa, atyadbhutam tat charitam sumangalam, gayantananda samudra magna, tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam, avyaktam adhyatmika yoga gamyam, atindriyam sukshmat, ivati duram, anantamadhyam paripurnamide. Unalloyed devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Lord worship Him in full surrender and always hear and chant about His activities, which are most wonderful and auspicious. Thus they always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask the Lord for any benediction. I, however, am in danger. Thus I pray to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally existing, who is invisible, who is the Lord of all great personalities, such as Brahma, and who is available only by transcendental Bhakti-yoga. Being extremely subtle, He is beyond the reach of my senses and transcendental to all external realization. He is unlimited, He is the original cause, and He is completely full in everything. I offer my obeisances unto Him. Purport. anyābhilāṣitā-śūnyaṁ jñāna-karmādy-anāvṛtam anukulena Krishnanu shilanam Bhakti-ruttama Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu 1.1.11. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Unalloyed devotees have nothing to ask from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Gajendra, the king of the elephants, was circumstantially asking for an immediate benediction because he had no other way to be rescued. Sometimes, when there is no alternative, a pure devotee, being fully dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, prays for some benediction. But in such a prayer there is also regret. One who always hears and chants about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord is always situated on a platform on which he has nothing to ask in terms of material benefits. Unless one is completely pure devotee, one cannot enjoy the transcendental bliss derived from chanting and dancing in the ecstasy of the Sankirtan movement. Such ecstasy is not possible for an ordinary devotee. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us how one can enjoy transcendental bliss simply by chanting, hearing, and dancing in ecstasy. This is Bhakti-yoga. Therefore, the king of the elephants, Gajendra, said, Adhyatmika yoga gamyam, indicating that unless one is situated on this transcendental platform, one cannot approach the Supreme Lord. The benediction of being able to approach the Lord can be achieved after many, many births. Yet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has awarded this benediction to everyone, even to the fallen souls who have no heritage of anything in spiritual life. That is actually being seen in the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, the path of Bhakti Yoga is the spotless process by which to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktyaham ekayagraya. Only through devotional service can one approach the Supreme Lord. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7.1, Maya sakta manapartha yogam yujjanmadashaya asamshayam samagramam yakthagyasasitat-shrinu. Now here, O son of Pritha Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Simply by being attached to Krishna consciousness and by thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna constantly, one can fully understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead without a doubt. Ekāntino yasya kañcanārthaṁ vanchanti yebai Bhagavat prapannam adyadbhutam taccharitam sumangalam gayanta ananda samudra magna tam akṣaraṁ brahma param pareśam abhyaktam adhyatmika yogagamyam atindriyam sukshmam iva tiduram anantamadhyam paripurnamide. Unalloyed devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Lord, worship Him in full surrender and always hear and chant about His activities, which are most wonderful and auspicious. Thus they always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask the Lord for any benediction. I, however, am in danger. Thus I pray to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally existing, who is invisible, who is the Lord of all great personalities, such as Brahma, and who is available only by transcendental Bhakti Yoga. Being extremely subtle, He is beyond the reach of my senses and transcendental to all external realization. He is unlimited, He is the original cause, and He is completely full in everything. I offer my obeisances unto Him. So this is the 8th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And this is the first pastime described in here, Gajendra Moksha Lila. And this is a very wonderful chapter, Gajendra's prayers of surrender. Surrender comes in different ways. Mostly, if you tell people outside of ISKCON, what do you understand by the surrender? They would say, criminals surrendering to the police, or, soldiers surrendering to the enemy in unavoidable circumstances, things like that. So, yeah, surrender means one is realizing one cannot go against a certain force. And Śrīla Prabhupada also explained that material world is called Durga Thama. And Durga, the name of the superintendent of material nature, who is extremely popular in West Bengal. And the word Durga literally means dur, difficult, and ga, go or overcome, right? Cross. So Durga is also a name of a prison house. And so that's why Śrīla Prabhupada says the prison house of material existence. And the best way to get out of the prison house, of course, one may try to escape. One exposes himself to even greater danger of being caught, having to hide all life long and being caught, and one's prison sentence being even increased after being caught. So that's why the best and logical way is to surrender to the authorities and, do what they say, and then one might be released from prison for good behavior. And so this is the system recommended in the Vedic literature, that we surrender unto the Supreme Authority and his representatives and behave ourselves nicely. And so for the good behavior, we might be released from the prison house of material existence. So this is the primary motivation of the conditioned soul, desire to become liberated from the onslaughts of the material nature. It's a neophyte level in devotional service, neophyte's motivation to be free from miseries. And this is the very first symptom of Bhakti Yoga, as it is described in Nectar of Devotion, Kleshagni, freedom from material misery. So this is the very first thing one gets in devotional service. That's why we understand that advanced devotees, they are not looking for liberation. They don't want to become free from any miseries, for a simple reason that they are already beyond that state. They are already liberated. In the same way as a wealthy man doesn't have to sit and beg alms in the street because he has enough, right? He has enough money. So devotee is wealthy by dint of his Krishna consciousness, and so inferior benefits such as liberation from the influence of material nature is already awarded unto him right from the start of his devotional service. That's why devotee, pure devotee, as Śrīla Prabhupada indicates, only wants to reciprocate with the Lord. It's very natural if we get a wonderful gift from someone, then the right thing to do is try to do something in return, express our gratitude. And so that's why Śrīla Prabhupada translated, even though Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not a prayer, but Śrīla Prabhupada was always saying that it's a request to be engaged in devotional service, because we gained so much by practicing Krishna consciousness already, It's a very simple thing. If we compare our lives before we joined the movement and now, we've gained a lot. Knowledge, good association, freedom from many problems, from bad habits, from bad association, and list goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And then naturally, because the Lord is the source of all these benefits, we want to express our gratitude. And this is the power of the process of devotional service, which is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives, main of whom is Śrīla Prabhupada for us. He was the one who did a lot of sacrifice to give us this opportunity to practice Krishna consciousness, and so primarily we want to express our gratitude to him by following the process of devotional service the way he suggests, he wants us to do in his books. And he explains that pure devotees have nothing they desire for themselves, they simply chant and dance. And we can see that this is going on in all ISKCON temples, right? Devotees chant and dance, and they're happy in their Krishna consciousness, and they only want more service from the Lord, right? But there is a danger there to think that because I chant and dance, I'm already a pure devotee. And I think this is a very common mistake. Are we contradicting what Śrīla Prabhupada says in his purports? No. We are engaged in a process devotional service, which is pure, and in this sense we are pure because we're following the pure process. But it is very dangerous to think that we're already purified from all material contamination to the degree that we don't want anything for ourselves. Actually, the kind of ecstasy we feel in the process of devotional service, and I'm sure all of us feel some ecstasy at least sometime, right? Otherwise we would not follow such strict discipline connected to Krishna consciousness. I mean, following 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds is just the beginning of the discipline, and then process demands much more. So if we would not feel satisfaction and bliss from the process, we would not be able to follow such restrictions. Heavy restrictions for many people outside to follow 4 regulative principles is like, they think it's better to die than restrict their lives so heavily. But devotees do that because they have higher taste, param drishto nivartate. But is it our higher taste? Actually, no. It is a reflection of the association we get from pure devotees. And especially here in Sridham Mayapur, we understand that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates are still present and they're still performing their Sankirtan. And so we're getting their association on the top of the association of many exalted devotees. And so in that atmosphere, you get into the water, automatically you get wet. In that atmosphere, you automatically share the bliss. But it's very dangerous to think that it's ours and think that we're already advanced to the stage when we have no material desires, and then perhaps look down at those devotees who have material desires and who pray for something material. I had an interesting experience I visited one area in Siberia, in Russia, and devotees held a festival there. And so when I arrived, few devotees came to see me, those who knew me, and I introduced them to Govardhan Shila I'm worshipping. And they were asking, what's the speciality of your Govardhan Shila? And I said, well, Giriraj very easily fulfills any desires. So if you have any desire, you can ask Giriraj. He can help you out with anything you want. And some devotees prayed, but I've noticed one devotee who was in the organizing committee. He didn't even come close to Giriraj, and by the expression on his face, I could see what he's thinking, like, what desires? I have no desires. Why should I ask for anything? I'm all right. And then those devotees left, and then literally in 20 minutes or half an hour, that organizer came back, and he said, I wanted to see your Giriraj. I have something to ask him. And he prayed for something very fervently. Yes. And then he left. I didn't ask because it's devotee's personal business. But then he came back in an hour and he said, your Giriraj is amazing. And he told the story. He said, the first time I came, and you were saying, if you have any desires to ask Giriraj, I was thinking, like, these devotees have problems because they are not seriously practicing Krishna consciousness. That's why they have so many desires. But, I am different. I have no material desires. So, and why he's telling the devotees to ask for any desires? I cannot understand this. So he was a bit critical in his mind. And then he left. And then his wife, who was also at the festival with their child, small child, she had to share a room with another elderly lady because there was a shortage of rooms. And that lady turned to be very cranky. Probably the child was making disturbances or whatever. But as a result, that elderly lady was giving a lot of hard time to his wife, to an extent that his wife freaked out, and she called onto her husband and she said, give me a separate room away from that lady, or I don't want to stay at the festival. And he was saying, but there are no rooms. Everyone has to share. And she said, I don't care. I'm leaving. I'm going home. I don't want to stay. And if she leaves, and it's Siberia, and it was winter time as well, if she leaves, she would have to take her home, which is pretty far away, which means he would have to drop his responsibilities, which he couldn't afford doing. So he was really caught in unresolvable circumstance, and he was thinking, okay, let me try Giriraj for change. And then he went back, he prayed, and in a very short time, that elderly lady got a call from her house, from her home, and she had some emergency she had to attend. And she had to leave the festival. And so his wife was happy, and then he came back. He said, amazing lesson. So, I don't know how many of you went through the kind of experiences when you were thinking, yes, I am a pure devotee now. I have nothing to worry about. I have no material desires. And then Krishna is helping you to understand, not quite yet, right? You still have to work on something. Anyone had that experience? So, yeah, many devotees. Yeah, this is the funniest thing about the process of devotional service, that, we are in the same school and we have to pass the same exams. And life is a serious teacher, right? Life is a very good teacher. The only sad thing that it kills all the students at the end, right? But anyway, if we pass our exams, then we don't even have to face death. We'll be liberated in the same way as Gajendra became liberated. And actually, Śrīla Prabhupada speaks about Gajendra in one class, and he says, not only the devotee who is serving the Lord becomes liberated, but everyone connected to the devotee also becomes liberated. And he gave an example. He said, the elephant Gajendra became liberated, and the crocodile became liberated as well. And you know why? Śrīla Prabhupada said, because crocodile had devotee's foot in his mouth. So, even this kind of connection helps us to become liberated. Because it's not the recommended way to connect with the devotee. But this is how powerful the process of devotional service is. And the most amazing thing, which outlined in Śrīla Rupa Goswami's Padyavali, for those of you who don't know, this is his personal verse book of favorite verses, Sanskrit verses from all over. Sometimes devotees compose their own verse books with favorite verses. So Rupa Goswami composed one, and it was called Padyavali. And the verses are really amazing. So one verse, which actually is in the beginning of Padyavali, text 8, and it describes the glories of devotional service. And it says, where were the hunter's dharma piety, Dhruva's maturity, and Gajendra's knowledge? Śrīla Prabhupada also says Gajendra was not a brahmana, right? He was just an elephant. Of course, big and fat elephant, but still an elephant. Where was Kubja's beauty? Vidura's noble birth? Where was Ugrasena's chivalrous strength? Lord Madhav is pleased only by devotional service and not by material qualifications, right? It's interesting that the name of Krishna which is used in this verse is Madhav, right? And some of you would know what is the name Madhav stands for. Yeah, husband of the original goddess of fortune, right? Because Srimati Radharani is the source of all Lakshmis in the spiritual world. So she's the original goddess of fortune. And so Madhav means one who possesses all fortune, everything imaginable. So this is Krishna. That's why Krishna can never be impressed, as the 7th canto explains, by any material qualifications, because he has much greater qualifications, right? If someone has billions of dollars, can you impress him with like $100 bill? Or can you impress the sun with a glowworm? The glowworm will not even be visible in the presence of the sun. So in this way, Krishna is not impressed with any material qualifications, but he's impressed with the surrender, with the sincerity of purpose. And Gajendra was expressing his sincerity of purpose. And he was regretful about the fact that he had to ask the Lord for anything material, because he said pure devotees, they don't ask for anything material. And we have the wonderful examples of pure devotees from Chaitanya Lila, Vasudeva Datta, who was undergoing such a misery being a leper, but he didn't ask the Lord for the relief of the suffering. What he was asking for is to give him more suffering and liberate all the conditioned souls. He was saying, give me all the sinful reactions of all the conditioned souls and let them become liberated. So that was the level of his compassion. So this is the pure devotee, and of course, for us, the example of Śrīla Prabhupada is outstanding, that his very first prayer he composed upon arriving to the shores of United States is very exemplary in that regard. Let us read it, because it's a very wonderful prayer. It's worth reflecting on it. My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I don't know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? In one class, Śrīla Prabhupada, one class given in New York, and it was kind of big audience. And Śrīla Prabhupada said, I'm very happy that so many people take interest in Krishna consciousness, even in this remote place on the earth. And you know, to tell New Yorkers that you live in a remote place, Ekalavya is from New York, right? He knows what New Yorkers think about themselves, you know. And Prabhupada told the New Yorkers, you know, you live in this remote place, but it's so nice. You take interest in Krishna consciousness. And after the class, one man raised his hand. He said, Swamiji, you called New York a remote place? So what is in your mind the central place then? Prabhupada said, of course, Vrindavan and Mayapur are the central places. So for Śrīla Prabhupada, America was a terrible place, even though for many people it's the ultimate dream of their lives, right? Going to America is like going to the spiritual world or something. But not for the pure devotee, though. Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion, absorbed in material life. They think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? Oh Lord, I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. We can understand Śrīla Prabhupada's challenge because he came to America at the time when the entire country's motto was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? That was their focus, that was their striving. And then this elderly little Bengali man comes and he says, no sex, according to how you understand it, right? Because for Westerner, no illicit sex practically means no sex, right? No drugs and no rock and roll also. If you want, you can chant Hare Krishna and dance, right? And of course, it was a challenge, right? And Śrīla Prabhupada actually admits in one class, he says, I was thinking, you know, when I would tell you, you would have to follow four regular principles, you would respond, Swamiji, I think it's time for you to go home. We had enough of you. But he said it was amazing. You've accepted So Krishna made actually the impossible possible for Srila Prabhupada, we understand. But he realized how tough is the challenge, and he's expressing his mind in here. But I know your causeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service? Oh Lord, I'm simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have become under the control of the illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. It's interesting. Śrīla Prabhupada is actually challenging Krishna here. He says, I want them to be liberated. So if you want them to be liberated, as you claim, you will make them understand your message. Right? Very interesting. Special rasa. Pure devotee can even challenge Krishna. The words of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message. It is said in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1:17-21. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. That's really important. Adding, messages are great, but if you sleep at the class, it just goes over the head, right? So they have to be properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. He will become liberated from the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. It's interesting, Śrīla Prabhupada speaks in a singular term here. He will become liberated. Who is he? Śrīla Prabhupada says in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, if all my efforts will result in making even one person into the pure devotee, I'll consider my effort to be successful. So Śrīla Prabhupada was ready to sacrifice himself even for one person, but then we can see how Krishna reciprocated with Śrīla Prabhupada so nicely. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I'm seeking your benediction so I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it's up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message, so if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands, so if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. So we'll stop here, and if anyone has any questions or comments, suggestions or complaints, you're welcome to share them. I don't know if we have the second microphone. Anyone? We have second microphone? Okay. Okay, allow everyone, then lady at the back.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you. You were saying how Krishna is not impressed by material qualifications. Still, we feel that he may appreciate service done expertly. If we cook for the Lord, nice if we cook nicely, not just good intentions. So what is the relationship between offering with love and devotion and offering something very nicely done?
What's the difference between something offered with love and devotion and offering which is just materially nice but has no love and devotion? Well, it's simple that when something is offered with love and devotion, I'm thinking of Krishna's pleasure. And when I'm offering something which is materially nicely done, but without any devotion, I'm focused on myself and how great I am. It's like Srila Bhaktacharya Maharaj often, he says that in Kirtan one should glorify Krishna but not himself, right? So it's a very good example of, Kirtaniya can be amazing singer and musician, but he can sing and think, how nicely am I singing? I think everyone should be impressed, right? So that's the example of doing something on a very high level, but without any devotion. But at the same time, a singer can be not so expert, but he can really, think of Krishna, be focused on Krishna while chanting Kirtan. And same thing applies to all other aspects of devotional service. I hope that clarifies. Thank you. At the back, if you can pass microphone to the lady.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your class. You mentioned a couple of times that to think that we're more advanced than we actually are is very dangerous. So I was wondering if you could explain what exactly is the danger? If the person, let's say, of course, if you're going to if you think you're better than many people and you treat others badly, but if you feel that you're advanced and maybe you have something to offer to others, you can help others, then what's the danger?
What's the danger of thinking that we are more advanced than we happen to be? Well, Srila Prabhupada often quotes that proverb, pride comes before the fall. So in the same way as humility is the most powerful quality which helps us in our spiritual advancement, as Lord Chaitanya indicates in the third verse of Shikshashtaka, so pride is the most dangerous trap a devotee can get into, which can destroy completely his devotional service. Because if one is proud, then one will start committing a lot of offenses towards other devotees, even towards Krishna and towards spiritual master, etc. So that's the danger. And then, of course, the question which could be connected to that, what's the method by which we can avoid becoming proud? And we can see the examples of the most advanced Vaishnavas, Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and many others. And including Śrīla Prabhupada also, you can see how he defines himself, right? I'm most unqualified and most unfortunate beggar, right? I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, etc., etc. I just have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. And so, how come that these great devotees who have such a high qualification still think themselves so unqualified? And it's just their reference point. Because when we think we are qualified, we compare ourselves to those who are less than us, who know less than us, or who can do things not in such a nice way as we can do, right? For example, I can give class and think, oh, I'm so much better than Bhakta Joe, right? And feel very proud of it. Or so much better than anyone walking in the street because they wouldn't be able to quote Sanskrit so nicely, right? And present Krishna conscious philosophy in interesting or engaging way, right? But if I compare myself to Srila Shukadeva Goswami or Sutta Goswami, I mean, it's like not just nothing, it's less than zero, right? And so in the same way, one might become very proud, oh, I can cook so nicely for Krishna, right? But if you compare your cooking to Srimati Radharani's cooking, where do you stand? Or one can think, oh, I can sing and dance so nicely, but if we compare ourselves to, how gopis sing and dance for Krishna, rasa dance, where do we stand? So this is why pure devotees, they always speak of themselves as being very low and unqualified. I mean, Śrīla Prabhupada would always compare himself to his spiritual master, etc. So this is the example. And this is how they can feel that they're really unqualified. So, because pure devotee is Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suraya, that pure devotee's attention is always focused on the spiritual realm, right? Spiritual world and all the residents of the spiritual world, and comparing to them, anyone can feel unqualified. So this is how we can be always humble, by being Krishna conscious. But if we lose Krishna consciousness and start comparing ourselves to conditioned souls, naturally pride will be a result of that. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, if you could please pass the microphone to that side.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, you said that Krishna is pleased by the sincere surrender of his devotees, pure devotees. So my question is, while preaching, how do we, because we are supposed to be dependent on bhakti for propagating bhakti, and we cannot be dependent on deviations and speculations. So how do we protect our bhakti and propagate bhakti at the same time?
How do we protect our bhakti from deviations and speculations? Good question. Actually, the very first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is very, very important for all of us, because Śrīla Prabhupada said he put everything into the first canto, just for the simple reason because he was not sure how much longer he will stay in this body. So he wanted to make sure if he would have to leave, then devotees would have something solid to, understand and practice. And so, first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is so full of very, very essential principles of Krishna consciousness. And so, one of these points, and of course, this is the beginning of narration of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and any preacher knows that the opening lines are really important, right? To grab people's attention. So the very important thing you have to say in the very beginning and then elaborate on that, right? So the first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam outlines the 4 pillars of Dharma, Satya, Daya, Tapa, Shuchi, right? Which is, for those who are not familiar with Sanskrit, Satya means truthfulness, Daya means mercy, Tapa means austerity, and Shuchi means cleanliness or purity. And so the only one which we can still rely on in Kali Yuga is Satya, right? Truthfulness. And so it's very interesting to know that many times Śrīla Prabhupada highlights this aspect, that devotee, sincere devotee means truthful devotee. So what does it mean to be truthful? Truthful means to do what they call a reality check on regular basis, right? Because we might kind of live in our own world, in the world of our own fantasies or imaginations about ourselves. As one of my friends living here in Mayapur says, everyone is watching his own movie in the head. So this is what's often happening. And think about ourselves, whatever we think. But then, how do we maintain the principle of truthfulness? By doing a reality check with the devotees who are around us. And so I would say that being open to a feedback is the foundation of our spiritual advancement and relationships with devotees, right? You can see that if someone is not interested in any feedback, then devotees tend to avoid that person, right? But if someone is open, then it creates very sweet relationships. And we can see that Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is open to any feedback, and Arjuna is giving him heavy feedback in the first verse of the 3rd chapter. He says, if you think that the path of intelligence is better than the path of fruity work, why are you trying to, involve me in this ghastly warfare? Basically what Arjuna is doing, he's questioning Krishna's integrity. He says, indirectly, you are manipulating me to use me for your own purposes, right? Heavy feedback. And Krishna doesn't become disturbed. He just calmly explains to Arjuna everything from the start to help him understand. Because he doesn't have those inferior motivations. But if someone has inferior motivations and one gets that feedback, then we can understand what the response will be. How dare you are, right? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, is there any book in our movement that explains the core principles of bhakti and the deviations and speculations which we are supposed to avoid?
I can hardly hear you.
Is there any book in our movement which tells about the core principles of bhakti and also highlights the deviations and speculations which devotees are supposed to avoid? Is there any book like that, Maharaj?
Any book?
Yeah, book.
Yes, Madhurya Kadambini is very good book which elaborates on all the stages of devotional service. Of course, Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction are also good reference books. I think we ran out of time, so if there are any more questions, you can ask them individually, but otherwise we would have to finish officially the class.
One small thing, Maharaj, like dressing like a karmi or any other such things. Such things are outlined anywhere in our books. I was wondering if that would help me.
You've read Nectar of Instruction and Nectar of Devotion?
Okay, in that it is there.
Yeah, you start with those books.
Okay.
Then
Thank you,
you can
Maharaj.
read others.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Grantharaj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening.